Around 1 in the morning, I'm walking home thinking, this is so exciting. I get to fix all of these problems. And I'm processing a problem in my head. And I landed on a solution. I'm like, yeah, this is what I can do. I can actually get rid of this bug by doing this. And it got so excited. I was animated. I was talking to myself, looking like a crazy person in New York City. But that is when I realized, like, this is energizing. This drives me forward.
Welcome everyone to the future of cloud optimization. Today I have Rachit Lohani, the CTO of Paylocity with me. Welcome, Rachit.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Rachit has been the CTO of Paylocity, and prior to that, he was heading engineering at Atlassian, and I know him right from there. And he has been a deep technologist who understands AI in and out, and a great leader too. So, Rajat, the first and foremost question, right? Can you give us a brief overview of your journey to becoming the CTO of Paylocity?
Yeah, absolutely. The good part about title is no one wakes up any day and be like, I want to be a CTO someday. Same with me. I graduated from school, did my engineering, did master's in engineering and math, computer science and math, and was interning at Bloomberg working on these handheld devices called Be Not Caught. It was fine, right? I have a degree. I'm doing this. It's fun. They're paying me well. This is the first time I was making any money. And this is New York City. But one day, once I got used to it, I remember this vividly. I was walking home. This is around midnight or 1 in the morning, because I used to work weird hours, right? I used to get in super early so I could get access to free breakfast and then free dinner. So I would stay there forever and go walk home at night. Around 1 in the morning, I'm walking home thinking, this is so exciting. I get to fix all of these problems. And I'm processing a problem in my head. And I landed on a solution. I'm like, yeah, this is what I can do. I can actually get rid of this bug by doing this. And it got so excited. I was animated. I was talking to myself, looking like a crazy person in New York City. But that is when I realized, like, this is energizing. This drives me forward. I was enrolled in a PhD program. I called up my professor a few weeks later. I'm like, hey, I like engineering, but I don't think I have the patience to pursue PhD. So I'm going to go the other route and start doing hands-on work and see how that goes. And he was very supportive. So that is how I entered technology. I worked there for a while and then joined AOL, did a lot of big data engineering because that was all the hype. This is 2007, 8, when the economy is not doing well. And then graduated from there, did a startup that did not go anywhere, then joined a few more companies, ended up at Intuit, led TurboTax, did backend engineering, infrastructure engineering, joined TurboTax, did scale engineering, and then Atlassian, where you and I met. And I was widely impressed by the product offering and your approach then, which sounds like this is what we all should be doing anyway, but you were ahead of the thinking of the curve back then. And then joined Paylocity to lead product and engineering. So title is aside, we all wake up every day to change something, to make the technology better, to make teams better, to make organizations better, or to make the products better.
Now, being a publicly traded company, right? So I know you care about both bottom line and top line. And bottom line optimization is a huge priority for most leaders. And AI is expected to really help you there, right? How is your approach to that?
Oh, very similar. So you're right. We look at top line revenue, how fast is the company growing, which is critical for all of us, because that is a sign of a healthy business. And then we look at the EBITDA margins and then the free cash flow margins. A lot of engineering leaders come from CapEx heavy world, where you would procure hardware, install it, and then use it, and then amortize over a certain period, like 5 years, 10 years, 12 years. With cloud, that shifted. And suddenly, all of your expenses started to hit your EBITDA because it became part of your operating expense, right? And once it becomes an operating expense issue, you're talking to the CFO almost every single day. Because you're a SaaS company, your margins need to be around, your operating margin needs to be around 80, 85%. And if infrastructure takes 10, 15, 20, 30%, then it's a conversation, and it's not a good conversation, right? So you got to figure out, how do I optimize my workloads? How do I make them more effective, more efficient? How do I cut down on all of this waste while not compromising on reliability, on quality, on time for the page to load, on my latency, and all these things? So it's a delicate balance between the two. And on top of that, now you're dealing with people who actually don't care about infrastructure, because you're dealing with the CFO of the company. You're dealing with the customers. As a customer, I don't care how much you spend. All I need is the best possible experience. When I click on it, it should just work like this. And as a CFO, again, I care about the dollar amount. How much are you spending? What percent of the revenue? But infrastructure does not work like that. It works on number of people using the app, how heavy the workload is, how much data are you processing, what's the size of your payload. So as a leader, these are the fine things that you have to balance, and people are getting closer to the balance sheet now because of this change from moving from CapEx to now it being an operating expense. That's part one. The other part is we're seeing a huge influx of these SaaS tools. Everyone has, like at Paylocity as a company, we have over 100 plus SaaS tools that power our business. So they start to matter as well, because you're using all of these third-party dependencies to power your business. Now, how do you optimize all of those offerings to get to the best outcome? For one person, this is just too much context. This is just too much tooling. The complexity is too high. So you start from here, and then you whittle it down to be like, okay, fine, let me just optimize cloud. Cloud is huge. We have over 30 different types of workloads running thousands of instances. What all will you optimize? Oh, I specialize in optimizing JVMs, which is a portion of your footprint. And we have 12 different types of JVMs, all with different settings. So if you start on a manual path, it will take us forever, and you're burning money today. And the interesting thing about cloud optimization, it is like cleaning your room. Cleaning your room once, it's easy, it's doable. But maintaining it there, it's hard. Because you walk in, now you have socks, your shoes, your bag, it's a mess. They do. Same thing with cloud optimization. You can go and clean it up once, and then a week later, it's the same mess again. So you need a third party, a tool that is always on, watching out for you. If you forgot to tag something, it notifies you. If it's tagged well, it's optimizing in the background without impacting your customers. A lot of us were missing that tool. And that is a solution that will help us move forward and not be pulled down by all of this weight of just optimizing and solving for a short-term outcome.
So when you make those architecture choices, right, when you pick an application, architecture, design it, do you keep this in mind, or will it help when people make those choices? Is it a good idea to keep that in mind when you make the choice?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is interesting. A lot of times, when high-scale employees look at startups or Series A companies, Series B companies, they look at the design and go, oh, you are a monolithic app on a monolithic database. This is bad. The reality is it's not bad. It's actually good. Because when you are seed or Series A or Series B, you're solving for a business outcome. You don't have the scale yet. As you embrace more and more complex architecture, the cost starts to go up. The complexity goes up. You cannot afford all of those things right now unless you start to onboard a lot of customers. If that is the thing, then perfect. Your valuation goes up. You can hire like strong people, a lot of people, globally distributed. You can do all those things. But the reality is 99+% struggle with this. So you start as simple as possible. The goal is, how can I deliver value as fast as possible to my customers? Because why would people lean on a startup who does not have a lot of scale experience? Is your velocity. You get velocity by keeping it as simple as possible. But simple does not always scale. But you're not solving for scale, right? But there will be that inflection point where you will shift from just solving for velocity, for solving for quality and velocity, and then solving for quality, velocity, and scale, solving for quality, velocity, scale, and business, right? It just keeps getting bigger. And this is where you want to augment your staff with as many advanced tools and capabilities as possible. Given where we are today, we do about 5-6 million active users on our platform. We do about $1.5 billion in revenue, growing at about 18-20%. So all of these are healthy metrics. We have started to see scale challenges, which is great. So we invest in sharding. We want to shard the database because it's huge. We want to do the same thing with our application. We want to make these applications shard aware. And now we onboarded on Kubernetes because it can scale really fast. We see a lot of spiky traffics. One of the product offering that we have is users punching in and out. So at 8 or 9 a.m. Eastern, we see a huge influx of people logging in, right? Because they're punching into their work. And it's millions of users, all of them logging in that 3 to 5 minute window. Old stack, if it's monolithic, won't work. So what do? We embrace Kubernetes mindset, more and more of functions, like unit level code that will just scale up, do the process, accept an event, and move on. And this is where we embrace event-driven systems. But all of that to solve a specific business problem. And that is what evolution looks like. So the biggest thing that we keep in mind when we design a solution is this needs to be modular enough so we can break it into pieces tomorrow if need be. I can take out some pieces if they're not required. It should be extensible. Like think like a platform. Think that this will die in 2 to 3 years. How will you build it in a way so that way it's easier for us to break it into pieces and help it grow?
So, Rachit, we have, let's say, 3 main clouds in play, right? And everybody has some features, and especially with scale, there are certain features that you can just tap into, right? People generally get scared. I really go deep into cloud and or use all the features, so you cannot move to the next cloud, or you cannot unplug yourself, like lock-ins. So do you worry about that, or you just go all in and use those features?
My approach has always been about being all in. And the reason is you pick the best. So I make a few key assumptions. If you look at any of these key players, they have a lot of money in the bank. They have enough to keep pouring in R&D and keep innovating. And like these are fast-paced companies. They move fast. They have customers who are larger than us, more complex than us. And they're solving bigger, meatier problems. So I'm somewhere in the middle there. Like I might be P40, P50, P60 for the big dogs of the world. And that is where I want to be. I don't want to be on the cutting edge and take this big bet and put my business on it. I want to be someone who has done this at scale multiple times, is very comfortable, and I'm a small fish for them. So I now don't have to diversify and say, okay, if this goes south, I can lean on this other party. No. Given the scale that I'm at, I'm very comfortable getting married to one.
So now back to optimization again. So optimization generally is a much harder problem, especially when given to teams, right? One thing that my team always hates is when there is an item there that says, now we have to bring the cost down, right? They like, now starts the boring work, right? So when you look at that, and FinOps is a new evolution of things where now you can at least see data and see what can be done. So how has that helped you? Like FinOps journey?
Yeah, a lot. Why did FinOps start? It was an organic growth because now the CFO is in the room, your finance team is in the room, asking questions around why are we spending so much on this EC2? What is EC2? Or what is this S3? These are funny acronyms. What do they mean? And why are we spending so much on these guys? So that was part one. Now you need someone who can bridge that knowledge gap and say, this is how we look at it. These are the things that you can amortize or depreciate over time. These are the things that will hit you right away. And these are the things that will go under R&D because it's all financials. This is how you can get bigger breaks, bigger discounts. That's part one. Part two is how you use them impacts the cost. Can I go spot here? Because like finance, they do what they do the best. They go to the website, start to look at how do you charge me? Then they ask questions like, what regions are you in? Why do you need 3 AZs? Can you go lower tier on this S3 thing that you have? Can I compromise on all these areas? Right? Because they're optimizing for that number. You need someone on the engineering counterpart who will bridge that gap with the engineering teams and say, okay, I see where you want to go. This is our financial trend line. This is what we expect the spend to look like. These are all the metrics that we have in place. And this is the plan to address it if in case we go red, right? So you need someone who will take on that complexity and bridge the gap between financial teams, this the office of the CFO and the office of the CTO, so they can speak the same language, and then help both of these departments with more analytics, more data, more actions. This team needs analysis. This team needs action. And who bridges that gap, who provides the right tooling, is that FinOps team. So I have been a beneficiary from both the ends. Because when we publish our quarterly results, we talk about the overall spend and improving margins. Like we ensure that we hit the rule of 60, or at least stay in the high rule of 50s. How do you make that happen? You make sure your EBITDA is very healthy. And infrastructure plays a really critical role in that.
Right. Especially on that specific use case of optimization or making sure that you have that margin out there. Where can AI really help? What should a leader think about when he sees a problem? Where can I deploy AI? Where can I deploy, lack of a better word, non-AI components or some people? So how do they find this out?
Yeah. My approach has always been you start with the minimal people investment and see if this problem is actually solvable, right? Can someone click around, fine tune it, and solve it? If so, is scalable, then AI is the perfect solution for that. You don't want to deploy an AI solution that is challenging, hard, has a lot of false positives, and the ramifications of making a mistake is really high. You want to avoid, like a good example would be payroll processing. You need a person to validate whatever AI has produced because it's moving money and you're moving billions of dollars. To give you contextualize the scale, Paylocity moves like $250 billion every year. So making mistakes would be huge. Don't want to do that. You always have these goalkeepers who look at things and go, okay, all looks good, good, sanity, check, smoke test, perfect, keep moving. Same thing goes to optimization. You start with a problem that a human can solve, you write it down and see, can it be scripted? Can it be automated? What's the downside? If I make a mistake, what happens then? And then slowly put models on it. A really good use case was fraud detection model. When someone logs in from somewhere, we have all of these data points around when do you log in? What do you click when you usually log in? How long do you stay on the page? How often do you change your bank account credentials on Paylocity to move your payrolls? I don't need a person anymore to monitor that. We have an AI model that consumes this information every 5-10 seconds. And if it sees anything malicious, it prompts for the step up off. Or if it sees more problems, it just blocks that interaction and says, hey, I need to block this session. I'm seeing something fishy. You can surf, you can read everything. I cannot let you edit. Give me 24 hours and someone will reach out to you, right? So now you're doing AI at scale and no person has to constantly watch and monitor. You have an AI system that is monitoring and blocking things for you. Same thing with cost. Optimizing JVM for one is easy. I can do that. You can do that. Anyone can do that who understands Java, who understands JVM. Doing it at scale for like 20, 30, 40 JVMs, monitoring them, deploying it to thousands of instances, not easy. It's not a trivial task, and I will take forever. So this is where I need an AI model because I have that scale. I have thousands of workloads. I know how to do it for one. I can extrapolate and tell you, hey, when I do this, I am worried about my garbage collection cycles. I am worried about the latency spikes. I am worried about this total CPU compute because it impacts my SLOs. Given these 5 or 6 conditions, optimize it for me. Perfect. The AI model will take that and be like, okay, these are the things I need to optimize for. And this is the outcome that I'm looking at. It will go one at a time, do it at scale, and get the job done. That is a perfect application for AI. Anything at scale.
Switching to your most favorite topic, your topic, right? So autonomy and AI, right? So I know I think we ourselves have had a chat about the spectrum of autonomy, like how exactly can we embrace it, and where can AI help, and why is it safer than automation, right? So we talked about it at length. So what exactly is your thinking on adopting the spectrum, and where do you see things moving?
So first of all, I love that framework. I hope you'll make it available to everyone very soon so they can see. It is always good to look at or to visualize where are you on this spectrum and what will it take for you to get to the next level, because that is all what we want, right? Keep graduating, keep growing. That's the growth mindset that we all have. It goes from 0 to 5, very similar to the model that they use for autonomous cars. 0 is you don't have anything, right? It's all manual. You don't have the telemetry, the metrics, observability is missing, and all those things. 1 is you're getting the signals, they might not be fully baked. So when you make a change, you're doing it one instance at a time. You might not even know what will break. So it's all reactive. The next day you might walk in and say, holy shit, the site was down for the whole day, right? The next level is you have the SLOs in place. Great. That's a big leap, right? And thank God for Google for creating that framework that all of us have embraced that will help us get to the next level. So now when you have SLOs defined, SLOs around your performance, SLOs around your availability, SLOs around your cost, SLOs around developer experience, now you know what are the key metrics that you should be watching out for. And then you build your playbooks on top of these things. So now I have the SLOs. If something breaks, I get notified. And I have some level of automation. Even though I am running it today, I run these things and then run a smoke test and say, all right, I did not break anything. This is good. This is like PRs with test coverages. You covered, right? But someone still has to write that PR. Okay, let's take it to the next level. And now we hook these two up and say, depending on the incoming data, start to optimize my infrastructure. It can learn trends better than a person can. If you ask me what will the next peak look like on Paylocity, I'll give you an approximate number. Machine, on the other hand, can give you a very precise number and be like, this is the reason why I've run all these models. This is where you will be. In order for you to support this, these are the kinds of instances you need, but this much RAM and this much compute. That's magic. So you hand it over to them and say, okay, I will be the validator or the approver. You make your changes. And then the last one is you are on your own. You do your thing. I will just look at the results because I've gotten so much comfortable with letting this autonomous bot take over, optimize, and give me the result that I want. But that still requires a ton of work. Like you need your playbooks to be automated. You need your SLOs to be defined and correctly measured. You need an observability system. All of that is the ecosystem that this bot will now leverage to get to the right outcomes. And hence, the progression is like staircase. You cannot skip one and go to the next right away. And hence, you need a tool that will help you accelerate on that journey.
Almost like a crawl, walk, run type journey,
Yep.
right? So they touched upon this IAC aspect. That's one challenging area for most companies because they all adopted IAC and it's helping them. Now there is an autonomous system or some optimizer that's making changes. The PR aspect, how do you generally, what is your vision in bringing those changes back into your source control?
Infrastructure as code was the foundation for autonomous systems. And the reason was infrastructure as code forced a lot of infrastructure providers to expose all of their capabilities through APIs. AI models speak APIs. They cannot operate in the world that you and I do. So with infrastructure as code, now we have the same language. I speak the same language as that machine. So it's easier for a machine to onboard and understand what I'm trying to do. How will the machine do it? And this also becomes a forcing function for people to follow standard practices, bring all of this code here. That way they can leverage a co-pilot to move forward faster. If it's the click world, there is no co-pilot for you. You're on your own. And that is not a good place to be.
So what in your mind is your prediction for this optimization? We are here, we will get there. But what exactly the prime prediction there? What is the key thing there?
I feel we are still in that state of euphoria when it comes to AI. And it's like stock market, right? When your hairdresser tells you that AI is going to change the world, you know something is off. When your Uber driver is telling you like AI is going to take over everything, you know something is off. Because this is an illusion. What I ask this off of all my teams, technical or non-technical, understand what are the applications that you see currently active. The parallel to the real world would be, I give you a fan, and you're like, yeah, fan is pretty cool. It gives me air. I can build a small fan, I can build a large fan, I can build a very large fan, and I can build a really, really tiny fan. That is the state of AI currently, right? We understand one use case, and then we just change the scale and say, this is what we can do. Versus, we need to double click, go under it and understand, oh, a fan has a motor in it. If you extract that motor out, what can this motor do? I can design like appliances. I can design cars because I provide electricity. It rotates my tires. I can design heavy machinery. I can design jets using the same principles. This is where we need to be. And same thing in the AI space. We understand the space, we understand the applications. What we need to do is, like, for more and more people to go underneath that and understand there are different kinds of AIs. Like, it could be predictive or regression based. It could be generative. It could be discriminative. Perfect. Now you are there. Now you understand what are the different AI models. You go underneath that, one more layer. What algo are you using? Are you using Bayes? Are you using regression? Are you using forest? And then once you figure that out, you go another level, which is we all have access to Python. We all know Python. That is what we, like, that was always the second or third language that we all spoke. In Python, perfect, explore the PyTorch lab or the module. Go inside of it. What do you see? Oh, I see .nn as a function. Perfect. What do you see inside of it? I see all of these other things that I can do. Perfect. Now you're exploring tensors. Now you're getting more familiar with matrices. And that is all what AI is. We talk about vectors. That is what it is. If you learn that part, you get to understand, oh, these are all the applications. These are all the things that I can do because you have that level of understanding. You can write basic tools. You can understand how will this AI work and what is the shadow of it? Where will this fail? Because you've opened up that fan, you know this is a motor, you know what is the structure like, and how can you use it in different places. So we need more and more people who will double click and talk about what is that I can use, right? Like, you start with torch, then torch.nn.functional, talk about convolutional model, talk about transposition, talk about folding. All of these things need to be critical, like they need to become part of our foundation. So we can have a really good conversation around the application of AI versus broad strokes saying AI is going to change the world. The reality is it won't. You're getting a really good co-pilot. The good part and the bad part about a co-pilot, it's like putting someone's skill sets on steroids. If you are a really terrible driver and I give you a really powerful car, an accident is warranted. But if you're a really good driver and I give you the best car, you will go really, really fast. That is the truth with AI. Terrible companies using AI, they will die really fast. Good companies, people who know what they're doing using AI, they will accelerate their journey towards success really, really fast.
Let me get three like super controversial questions here, right? With AI. One, is it safe? Two, am I ready to use? Three, will it replace me? This is a common question that comes, right? So how do you tackle all three in your organization? How do you, if a leader is faced with this question or these questions, how can we tackle this?
All good questions. We'll answer them one at a time. Let's take, in physical world, let's take car as an example. This is 1910, 1920. Horses are everywhere, and cars were just introduced. And people are asking, is this safe? Are cars safe? What do you think?
Nope.
Then the same answer is applicable to AI models. It depends on the driver. Is the driver capable enough? If not, then you will run into accidents. So now the question is, are you building a traffic system? Are you building rules? Are you putting cops on the field who will monitor and watch and make sure there are no drunken driving happening, making sure that people who don't know how to drive are not on the road. So all of these guardrails need to be built, or else accidents will happen and the cost will be huge. So that was part one. So is AI safe? No, it will never be safe. We need to build the guardrails. As a leader, you need to feel comfortable and say, okay, if this goes rogue, these are my checkpoints. If this goes rogue, this is my tripwire. This is what will kill it, because I'm using a system that has minimal control. And this is how I plan to put control on it. So that was one. What was the second question?
Will it replace me or my job?
The answer is yeah. And that is what we want. We want people to spend more and more time on cognitive heavy things, on things that requires imagination, on innovation, on disruption, on making this world a better place. You and I don't work and be like, today I'm going to work on Excel. Those 10,000 field file. Oh, I'm so excited. No. You and I want to have a conversation and understand how will you take this business forward? You and I want to have a conversation on what is the go-to-market strategy that we should apply? What is the competition doing? What should we do? What should we do to benefit our people, to benefit our customers? That Excel sheet, hopefully someone takes care of it. Who is that someone? That is AI. So yes, it will replace you, the mundane you, the boring you, the drudgery you. And the exciting you will come to life. You'll spend more time doing things that are actually fulfilling, things that will have a bigger impact, things that will help you build stronger relationships, things that will help you go deeper in technologies and make it better.
And the last question out of those three is like, am I ready to use? Is my tech mature enough or modern enough that I can now start consuming AI? What shall I do to consume?
That is a very complicated question. A lot of companies, when they heard about Gen AI, they were like, this is the word. This is gonna change the whole universe. I'm gonna embrace it no matter what. They were missing a data platform. The data was not well sectioned off. It did not have the right attributes. They were missing a lot of APIs, but they were using Gen AI on the data set directly that led to more losses than anything else. That is just a poor application of AI. AI, we talked about this, right? AI needs an ecosystem. It needs observability. Observability is just not for production. It's for everything. It's how you observe your systems. You need an endpoint that it can trigger, it can take an action. It needs the guardrails. It needs the right attribution model. It needs the right feature engineering. It needs the right pipelines. If none of those things exist, you're getting on a very risky road. You don't want to do that. So make sure that you have the right foundational pieces, and then you talk about autonomous systems, and you can always experiment. And this is where tools or applications like Sedai can help the customers. I've seen the demos. I know what it's like. I don't have to build any of those pieces now. I can lean more on the autonomous system providers and say, this is what my infrastructure looks like. What is your requirement and how do I onboard? Thereby cutting down the onboarding time dramatically versus me building all of these foundational elements and then figuring out how do I retrofit in these third-party models.
So in that optimization stage, right? So when we focus or zoom into optimization, and there is an autonomous system that can optimize, should a person, a leader who is looking at that system, should ever think that this could cause a problem for the organization or for the cloud itself or for this application, or just try out and see what comes out?
There are always risks associated with any kind of change. But the reality of the world that we live in is if you want to win, you got to take some risks. I took a risk of moving to this country. It was a risk. I took a risk of moving out of Atlassian to join Paylocity. I took a risk of leaving Intuit and joining Atlassian. These were all risks. But if there are no risks, there are no rewards. We live in a world where the labor cost is going up. We live in a world where the complexity is going up. So we live in a world where stockholders are becoming very price sensitive. We live in a world where the customer expectations are all-time high and they're only going up. No one expects, like if a region goes down, a customer would never say, oh, I'm so sorry that happened. I give you 8 hours. We get calls right away and be like, I need my payroll up right now. You get 5 minutes. What are you doing? Oh, our time to resolve is 8 hours. Oh, I'm moving payrolls then. If that is the kind of competition, you got to take some risks. So what you do is you take calculated risk. You start small and figure out how is this working in my small ecosystem, small environment that is limited, lower tier, dev environment, maybe a staging environment, and then keep growing. The goal is free up your people to focus on the things that would matter the most. These are high leverage people. These are intellects. These are smart individuals, people who can make a change. They just need time to think about things. But we put so much on their plate that they're stuck with this mundane tasks. That's got to change. And if a tool like Sedai can do it, then yes, it is worth the risk. Take that risk, take that leap, free up your people's time, and then innovate. Everyone wins in this case.
What's one advice that you would give to someone who's taking that optimization, the one thing that, yes, this is one thing that you have to keep in mind.
It's like learning a new skill. I still remember I started to learn rollerblades. It did not go well the first week. I fell so many times. And eventually, once I got a hang of it, it was fun. Same thing with these models. You will fail. And hence, you do it in a controlled environment. It might cause an outage, or your engineers might not know what to do. It will also expose gaps in your ecosystem, in your observability stack, the things that you're monitoring, the things that you're not monitoring. It will also, it might give you cultural impact. Like people would think, oh, this is going to replace me. But this is where, as a leader, you need to be there with them, telling them this is what the vision is. And if you remove mundane, we all get to focus on things that actually matter, that will help us propel forward, that will help us win big, win more. And that is what we all want. It's not about replacing people. It's about removing that toil. It's the same SRE principle. SRE was never replaced or meant to replace all of your PagerDuty alerts. But with automation, there is toil reduction that leads to developer satisfaction and more innovation. That is what we all want. So be open to experimentation and have a growth mindset.
Thank you so very much, Rachit, for chatting with me today. It was super insightful, and the deep technology suggestions there, right? So the best part here that I see is this will help people take the journey, and that journey will be a lot more easier, like plan, and they can even expect some of these outcomes ahead of time. So thank you so very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for hosting me.